Kiss with blast of it. Come on, you're about to
go.
If you got to go away.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
Don't think I can take the pain. Won't you stay another day?
Stay now.
Stay now.
Stay now.
Stay now. Baby, if you got to go away.
Done well then. We could revitalise the band. Let's get them out.
Welcome back to the Boardman podcast.
Boardman.
We're Boardman. We're here again, soon to be #1 podcast in the UK.
Yeah,
we'll start saying that. We've started saying it. We're here. Our next guest, Mr. Martin C. Is that how you say your last name? C.
C-double-E.
C-double-E.
Yeah.
Before we get into it, these two want to arm wrestle, so I just thought start on that
You would
one.
annihilate me at arm wrestling. I've got no. Shall I tell you something? though? My friend is actually like one of the world's best. So if I can put a friend forward, I'll get my mate to arm wrestle you. I said good arm wrestlers.
We should arm
wrestle. My mate.
I said Martin's a big boy. He's coming over like, yeah, we'll arm wrestle.
Rubbish arm wrestle.
To be fair, Matt's pretty good. Like,
No.
Matt is good.
Do you know what?
We draw when we arm wrestle, don't we?
so if you draw with Matt,
No, we draw. We go like that. And we draw every time.
okay.
Do you know what? There's a lot of technique to arm wrestle. I've seen a lot of very big men lose to very, very small men.
One of my mates does it full time now, and he's a Welsh boy. He's like British champion. He's just crazy.
Mate, it's mental. You know, literally, it's a big business now.
What's the technique?
Big business. The hook. I only learned bits about this, but you got the hook. You've got the, you know what I mean?
When it comes over.
I think it's, I don't know. I don't want to mug myself off, but you know what I mean? But you know, like, I'll have my mates watching this down, like listening, like, he don't know what he's talking about. And I don't, but there is a lot of technique.
There is a lot of technique.
What's that slapping thing as well, where they'll sit and they really hit each other?
That looks painful. Yeah, that's crazy.
Really?
Mate.
That's become like a...
Didn't Logan Paul and Schwarzenegger do that? They hosted the last one, yeah.
Yeah. They did
And it was full on, like, and people are getting knocked out when they hit. Like they're just getting knocked out on the spot.
They're getting so much into that slap now. I think sometimes you could get more out of a slap than you can into a punch.
Surface area.
Yeah.
Who was the really famous boxer that would always fight like he would always push with his hand?
Yeah.
Not
Come on, who's that?
really, mate, I can't remember his name. Jay, you know, UFC, some form of mixed martial arts, and he always punches with his.
Anderson Silva, would it be
Bob
Anderson?
Rutan, Vas Rutan. Do you know what I mean?
Bruce Lee.
No. But you know what's weird, right? All these things where you really hurt yourself. Like, have you seen these people doing these cliff jumps into a belly flop? Have you seen it into a belly flop?
Yeah,
So
stupidity.
Stupid belly flop and a slap around the face with the box or die.
It's mental. Martin, it's great to have you on. I mean, look, you know, we've done a film together where you were flipping unbelievable. And you've got a, you know, really interesting background. And tell us a bit about yourself. You do the Strongman presenting. Where did it start?
So it started. I was a pirate radio DJ. That's where it started. That's in the beginning.
When you say pirate, what do you mean?
Pirate, illegal.
God,
Yeah, I forget you're that age.
Mate, I'm
right. So
I'm sitting around here with like a bunch of 100-year-olds.
Yeah,
So this is the original form of podcasting.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This is what we're doing now.
Wow. Okay, but was the name called Pirate, or was it?
No, it's a radio station.
It was called Pirate.
Radio was unlicensed radio.
Right.
So you like, obviously you get an. Back then it was the DTI who regulated it and everything, like the government, you know. But they were giving out radio licenses to certain people. They didn't give out radio licenses to certain people like me, you know. So I had to go out and broadcast myself. So I had a mate who made transmitters, and he got me a transmitter. And then I would broadcast.
Did you have a big area on your roof?
Big, massive area.
Yeah, the bigger the area.
Big, massive area. Yeah, I mean, it was on a big pole, and you'd have it.
This sounds like so like 70s or 80s vibes.
This was 80s. Yeah, this was 80s.
Anyone could tune in, right? From that area, anyone.
So my teachers used to tune in. This is how bad it was. My teachers used to tune in.
Right.
Because I was at school with, and I had a pirate radio station, which is really hard to sort of put across now with all the social media and everything that's out there now. Yeah. It's hard to explain what a big deal that was.
Right.
Big deal.
You know, and then
because a lot of people used to listen into it, or because
because you only had back in the day you had Capital Radio, you didn't have Kiss, you got to remember there's no Kiss, there's no dance music radio out there. You literally have Capital, which we used to call the guitar station, right? And then that was it.
And none of this.
So none of this.
What was the music you were representing?
Was it garage?
No, before that.
Yeah, wait.
So we're going for like we're the birth of house music, right? But out of soul music, which was like your Luther Vandross, and
Right.
Alexander O'Neill, and stuff like that.
Would you MC?
No, I wasn't. I'm technically an MC, a strongman, but I do it loosely as a bit of a funny, like a party trick now. You know?
But would you MC on the radio station, on a pirate radio station?
I would DJ. I would talk and DJ and present and shout outs and you know.
Was it two vinyl, like Technics?
Two vinyls? No, I didn't have enough money for Technics.
Right.
You know, my mum and dad couldn't afford that. I went down this place in Lewisham, called Disco Land, and I bought this set of decks.
Right.
And it was the worst. And it used to start it, and the deck used to start about 5 minutes before it would get going properly. You know, it was like you had to guess it, or it would go into it. You know, it's hard to imagine how I started. But the long and the short of that was I got on to this pirate. I got my own pirate radio station, set myself up. Everyone used to listen to me, all my mates. I say everyone, my mates used to listen to me. And I got a big offer coming from. I say a big offer, but there was a station at the time called Sunrise. And Sunrise was
Sunrise
FM. Sunrise FM, yeah, it was a big radio. Yeah, Sunrise was massive. Yeah, it was a big station. So back then, Sunrise and another station I'll come on to later.
What year
the Centreforce.
What year was
Centreforce come. This was 19. So you're talking 87, 88.
Right, okay.
This is at 87, 88. Well, about 88, Sunrise come in for me, which was the big deal station. The only thing I could compare it to was like Kiss FM now. So imagine you have Kiss on the phone, going, like back in the day, you know, when it was good. And it was, you know, we want you to come and do a show on our station. And you're like, fucking hell, I'll have some of this. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's, you know, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
So, and they wanted me, little old Martin. So little old Martin rocks up and... remember how old I was. You know, I'm 14, 15 years old.
Were you still little then?
I was not little now. No, I was little then. Little skinny Ginger Martin, below there, loads of spots. You know what I mean? And yeah, and I rocked up to Dalston because that's where the studio was.
Right.
I could remember because funny enough, on the way to here today, we went past Dalston's Junction Station. So, wow, this brings back memories. You know what I mean? And I'm still in contact with all them. But anyway, so I was on this station called Sunrise, and that's where it just progressed from there. You know, which was just fantastic.
Can you remember any of the shout outs you used to do where you're like, this is the one thing I say where everyone just kind of tunes in or goes crazy?
Do you know what?
Or was it just kind of freestyle?
It was freestyle. And it was like you would shout at the listeners. You'd always have your listeners. You know what I mean? You'd always know your listeners were.
So how do people contact you? Because this is before mobile phones, really.
Radio pages.
Right.
So the first ones were radio. We did have a mobile phone though, but it was a big brick.
Right.
Big brick.
Right.
You know, if you weren't using it as a telephone, you'd have used it to ram rate something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was big.
Because it's before email. The email that we know of.
No email, no email, no internet, nothing. And this is where it's like, you know, it gets tricky. You know. So we had this, you know, we had the phone line into us. We had the radio pages, which were British. You got to think as well. We were probably getting 100 calls in an hour. The way radio pages work, they work from British Telecom, right? You had this operator that would probably take 10 calls a day, but the pirate radio stations all of a sudden come along, started using these British Telecom radio pages. Can you imagine the poor woman in the office taking the shouts and having you know, it was
coming in,
big shout to so and so, big shout to Doris, big shout, you know, you know, it was crazy.
There was no configuration with like you putting that connecting to a laptop or something like that.
No,
and just like seeing all those sort of messages coming through.
Mate, I remember pirate radio stations. Like my mate Stephen Dunton, he set one. It was called Emission Pulse, and he was like the richest kid in school. And he was a kid who his parents had money, and he got this massive antennae outside his bedroom in his dad's house. And he got all these, you know, like curtains put back behind him, and he would sort of film himself. Obviously, no one could see the film because it was just radio. And we used to go to nightclubs in the evening. You know, we were like really, really young, but we go. It was like proper ravey clubs you would go to in the West End, where they'd just have a video screen up, and they'd be playing the trippiest stuff. You know, like acid and you know all that sort of stuff. But that is amazing because back then it was so different to putting your voice through a microphone where anything can go viral. There's so many other like tertiary things to this. With this, it was just voice. There was no sort of like, there wasn't much ego attached or anything else.
No.
You weren't going to get rich from it. It was literally just because you were good at making music.
Yeah. You made music, or you could present it, you could put it forward, you could talk about the music.
Yeah.
And it was one of the two things, you know what I mean? And that's what it was all about.
It sounds like you enjoyed it as well, Mark.
And, man, I loved it. I love it. It's my passion. radio was always the fact that you can speak and people will actually listen to what you got to say. A bit like a podcaster. You know, it's just the fact that people actually wanted to hear what you had to say, hear what you had to play. You know, and it was something different. And I'll be honest with you, I was two and a half years in, and the DTI put my mum and dad's door through. The DTI were basically the radio police. So they worked for the government. Okay, they used to be based the Waterloo Bridge House. So
it's illegal.
It's illegal. Yeah, it's illegal. Yeah, you're breaking the law.
It's called pirate.
Why are you breaking the law?
Because you're not allowed to put a frequency on other at the time.
You're not allowed to transmit on the commercial radio band, right? So you have to have a license for that.
So you're doing something illegal, which people were listening into and enjoying it.
But it was also pioneering at the time because you're transcending the way that people get. Listen to music.
It's like a form of culture, in a weird way,
massively. And there's a lot of you look at a lot of rave culture books, and if anyone ever wants to get the Centerforce book, I'm in that. So check it out. But but it's all about. You've got to remember these radio stations that were operating at the time, they were giving out the addresses of raves. This was in the day of
it'd be an airport hangar.
Absolutely right, or an airport, or a field in the middle of nowhere.
And you'd only know 12 hours before because it's going to be shut
down. Or 2 hours before, literally. People would drive their cars.
Wow.
I mean, and this is what it was all about. As I say, there was no internet. So just imagine a world with no internet. And then all you've got is pirate radio.
I watched videos of me in Ibiza in 2001, and there was no phones then, right? And you just see the difference in fun that people are having. Yeah, I was in space in 2001, a club in Ibiza, and there was no phones, right? So no one is recording anything apart from one sort of like CCTV camera. And the difference in fun, where no one gives a shit what everyone else is, it's a completely different experience.
Another level,
Think of many things you've got to think about now. It's not about the recording. It's about what's on your phone. You're thinking about losing your phone. You're thinking about your battery dying. You're thinking about all these different things.
So you're thinking about stuff being out there forever. You put something out there, that's your footprint. It's there forever, Yeah.
You come into so I was sitting there one day. Do you know what? They nearly got me the night before. It's a real weird one. Or sorry, the week before. It was New Year's Eve, and I remember looking outside, and everyone knew the undercover police cars. Like everyone knew what they were.
No, because you didn't have a queue at the beginning of the number plate.
It was they had a funny aerial.
I think it was
the ones around my way had a funny aerial.
I think they had a queue on the first beginning of the number plate, mate, or something like that.
Yeah. Well, we knew they were there. Yeah. Anyway, so I remember being on air one night, New Year's Eve, and I went out my mum and dad's house, and I looked, and there they were, like undercover police, and I thought, I'm not having that. So I went and switched the transmitter off, right? So I thought, I'm being double clever. I left it a week, because it did put the frighteners up me slightly. Then I switched it back on. Anyway, I'm sitting there, and I'm playing, I can't even remember the record I was playing. And I'm having a good time in my bedroom, as you do. All of a sudden, I've heard this knock on the door. The door's gone through.
That's scary.
It's heavy shit. Yeah, and my mum and dad are watching, watching, Coronation Street or something or rather. They're sitting there, and boom, through the door, you've got the government officials, which were called the DTI, and you've got and the police sort of back them up, like to stop them having a breach of the peace and all that. So the old Bill don't want to be there. They don't give a shit about someone, a kid doing a pirate radio station. It just ain't the one. But then there's me. They've got to nick me, so they've got to take me gear. And it was just a fucking mess.
So they took the transmitter?
They took the transmitter, they took the aerial, they took the decks, they took the 2 records that were playing. If they wanted to be arseholes, they could have taken the whole record collection, which a lot of the record collection didn't belong to me back then, so it's like they would have been taking other people's records and everything. But no, they left the records, but they took it to, I got it back in the end, but the long and the short of it, my mum and dad actually didn't care because there were so many worse things a kid could do than play music and do shout-outs. And I weren't hurting anyone, I weren't interfering, and, the government used to go down this road that, you could wipe out the aeroplanes or we weren't wiping out no one.
Where's this? This is London in the 80s. Whereabouts in London?
This was Crayford. So this was, this was South London, if you like, the very, very far south, So yeah, border of Kent and South London, Right. So and you know what? I didn't hurt anyone. I went to court. I was 14 years old. I got a £250 fine. My dad. I'll never forget my dad, because my dad said, "Do you want me to pay it now?" My dad didn't have a lot of money. He's not a rich man at all, but he thought it was bullshit. The same as even the people in the court, they were like, "This is bullshit." Right? So anyway, literally, my dad paid my fine for me, bless him. And I got, but the next day, it was a real weird thing. I remember it being on Capital on the news hour. It was the youngest person in the UK has been caught and fined for pirate radio, caught and convicted. And it was me, little old me. So it actually brought, as a 14-year-old, getting nicked for doing something you love, it puts you in a hero status. You know what I mean? Oh, Ginger Martin's on the news. You know what I mean? It was fucking brilliant. And you know what? It didn't deter me at all. I carried on. I was on air on Sunrise the next week.
Right.
It just made me a little bit more careful.
Right.
How did you pick what radio band to go on at the time?
The engineer picked that.
Right.
So the engineer would say, well, 92.3 is clear, or whatever the frequency was. You know, and that's where you would get it. It would generally be picked for you.
Yeah.
So you do it deliberately, not to interfere with a BBC or another independent radio station that legal. You know, you would have.
And then your mates would slowly tune into 92.3, so you'd all be listening in. Yeah.
That sounds quite exciting.
It's really, it was super exciting.
So good. Yeah.
I only knew two people that were doing it. A guy called Lawrence, where I was living, and another guy, Stephen, the guy I mentioned, and everybly knew their radio stations.
Yeah.
And everybody would tune in, and they would MC. So I can't do it, but a proper MC. And because I remember, like, before, I always thought it was garage music when I was sort of 13, 16, 17. Then it was house and garage, which, because they bought a house in. Yeah. And then when I moved to Ibiza when I was 20, 21, all it was house. And you weren't a cool kid if you listened to garage.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
So garage was the very vocally, all the stuff that went to number one in the charts, but also kind of cool.
Sorry, go on.
And then house was like this deep, like melodic, bassy. And that was the sort of transition I knew that it went to. And when it went to house, that's when Ibiza kind of kicked off. Yeah. And it went away from sort of pirate radio stations and went to Head Candy and all that. Remember that?
Kinky Malinky.
Kinky Malinky.
Yeah, Paul Crane's gig. I know them. But listen, they were fantastic. You know what I mean? They were fantastic. But pirate radio paved the way for everything.
Yeah, 100%.
It's actually understated how big pirate radio was. And the fact that you don't even know what pirate radio is makes me think we need to revive this somehow. Throw it in people's faces.
There was regions like
it's good.
There was regions upon this. Like there was the funky house, the garage R&B, and that kind of like was in the Iron Apple side.
Absolutely.
And then there was like just dirty house, liquid house in Ibiza. But then it all started. Like, I come from the generation of garage music, so I think it started in West London. And I remember like the pirate radio stations then. It was like Heartless Crew, Fearless Crew, like all these crews that were just like MCing off the bat, like just I was just like, man, I'm tuning in, and this is just amazing music. It's like pioneering stuff. And it was just like, yes.
And you know what was cool, right?
Sick.
See, when you had the pirate radio station, that was a load of people listening. I know you're going to say yes. Do you remember CBT radios?
CB radio?
Yeah.
Well, that's how I started before. Now you're going back.
Yeah.
So CB. Yeah. Right. You're talking about CB radio. CB radio.
I remember that, of course, bro.
You don't.
Matt,
I'm showing my
grew up
age here,
listening
man.
to CB radio. CBD.
Oh, CBT's a
CBD.
CBT is the Citizens Band. CBT is what you do with a motorbike. CB.
CB. So Citizens Band Radio, right? Okay. And it got made legal in 1981 in the, don't start me off here, in the UK. I think about 1981. So basically it was in America, there was this big thing.
What was it legal?
You wasn't allowed to transmit. Again, it was transmitted.
Okay.
So it was like, you wasn't allowed to transmit. But I think about 1981, I think it was 1981, they made CB radio legal, and you could buy a license and you could talk to other people, and you would have certain channels.
Anyone who had a CB radio.
Yeah. So the 1-4 channel.
Was it like the cool thing to?
Oh, mate, it was cool. Don't get me started on how cool we were. And you had a handle. It's like very similar to Twitter, actually, and Instagram. You have a handle. Right. So you didn't have a name, you had a handle.
Yeah.
And your handle would be, like I don't know what I'd call it. Like your handle would be prize fighter, man. You know what I mean? And that's how it went.
Right. CB radios, right? You'd buy one, they were nothing. They were like, when I say nothing, you'd have to, I think like 40 quid at the time, right? 60 quid.
It's a lot of money. Yeah.
And you'd get this thing and you'd push it, and it was like with a walkie-talkie, just you and me within, a few hundred meters. With this, you'd press it. And anyone on that band you could listen into. Wow. So you could listen into the Police. You could listen into, I've actually got one now.
Yeah.
So
you can like channel into so many different frequencies that were like within your
CB
area.
Radio, the idea was to tune into other people that were this actually for VHF for if you're on a boat and you can
Marine band.
Marine band, exactly. So with Citizens Band, you could tune into any other citizen, give them the band that you're on, and talk to them.
Yeah.
Like, so this is going back.
It had a range, though.
Wow.
It had a range. But look, I could, listen, this would get really boring if I start going into technicalities, and I'm not an expert on it, but you're so right in what you're saying. You had calling channels. So you had 14 and 90, you had 40 channels on the TV, and you'd have the 14 and 19 that were the calling channels. You know what I mean? So you would go, like 1-4 for a copy, and someone would go, mate, relationships were made on it.
Wow.
Babies were made off the back of it. You know what I mean?
It was pre-internet phone. It just seems like
was.
Yeah.
And it's forgotten about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
It's forgotten about. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Because that was before the pirate radio. You know, you're talking. Yeah, that's really good.
So take us off that. How did you get out of that, and what happened next for you? Like,
pirate radio led me in. Obviously, that leads you into DJing and everything else. But then I got into clubs and pubs. So I started DJing in Woolwich, like 30 quid a night or 40 quid a night. Someone was bolting me up for, to go and do a night, play your music. There'd be a massive fight and there was blood up the walls of the place. But it was good
Julius was probably there with his...
Julius was on the doors in Woolwich. I know that.
Woolwich
Warriors, yeah. I'm sure Mark Epstein would have been around as well at some point, and I know he was. But we didn't used to play up. No one would play up if them boys were on the door. That was a bad night for someone. But listen, it was, it was good fun. Yeah. So I was a resident DJ. Right. So you imagine I'm out 5-6 nights a week, whatever I was. I'm out there like, just grafting, and you can imagine what comes with that. I'm actually a popular ginger kid. I'm out playing the music. But, again.
Popular ginger kid. That's brilliant. I love that.
But that's what I've done. Yeah. So I moved, I probably spent too long, if I look at it now, being a club DJ and that, because I got you've only got a certain life in that, and I hung it out and lived a life, and then I started not to enjoy it as you get older, because it just gets very samey.
When you say live the life, were you like just out all the time, or were you drinking?
Out all the time.
Really?
No, I wasn't I wasn't into drugs or nothing. Right. I was never really into that. Never say I've never done it, but I wasn't into that. That wasn't my thing. But I would certainly have a drink and that if I wasn't driving. You know what I mean? But a lot of the time you would drive, wouldn't you? You would, so you wouldn't, back then, I wouldn't do that. It was too much for me. Right. So, but I've done some really good clubs. The Bonbonnie, in the end, I ended up with a partner of mine buying the name of it. With the Bonbonnie was a South London club, and for people that knew that, it was massive, So I ended up buying the name of the club I loved. I was there for 14 years, which was great. And we still put events on now. You know what I mean? Nice. And Benji's. Yeah. Over your side, East London, Marlin Road.
Charlie Chan's.
Yeah, Chan. I didn't DJ Chan's, but that was another.
Faces was there.
Faces, Ganshill. Listen, you're talking like proper clubs. That's when clubs were clubs. Yeah. I feel sorry for the youngsters now.
Yeah,
they got nothing.
What was different? What?
Do you know? I think phones were a big part. Right. We were talking about this earlier, but phones were a massive thing, weren't they?
Well, there was also a time, right? So I remember when I grew up going to the country club, Epping Forest Country Club, and you'd go in there, and it was incredible. Like, you would know you'd go out beforehand, and you would know everybody there. You know half the people there from your area. There would always be fights and stuff. There would always be that, but there would be, everyone's drinking. And the other thing is you're young, right? So you're sort of 21, 22, 24. So you're just sort of just been into it for a little while. So everything's very new to you, right? And I remember we'd go to these bars first, then we go to the country club, and then we go to Atlantis. And that was a different sort of night, because that was just, you couldn't hear anyone. That was a club. That's where you'd, get pretty loose, and you'd be around there. But it would change. So then you'd have I remember there was a couple of years of Faces, then it went a bit shit because people from other areas would come in. Yeah. But I'd never forget. Do you remember the Cross and the Key?
Of course, the Cross. Yeah.
That I thought those days of clubs in that part of London were over, because I'd go and they weren't very good. And then I went to the Cross and the Key and Canvas. There were 3. And every night I went to the Cross, I had the most amazing night. You just meet wicked people, you have really good fun. And it was like you literally would wait all week for the weekend to go to the cross, and you'd slowly get to know the doorman and and that was really, in my opinion, there was no phones. Like if you saw someone, you weren't seeing them again.
Yeah.
Like you'd be lucky to see them again, you know?
Yeah.
So it was like a free time. It was like,
and it was living for the moment as well.
Yeah.
Like, that's
And it was
a
all,
lot.
and all you created then was memories.
Yeah.
Where I think we're losing it now, where the first thing, if you see someone do something amazing over there right now, we're all getting our phones out.
Yeah, it's like you're not
taking it in properly.
You're not taking it in for yourself. You get your phone out, wanting to capture it.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I think we got to draw it back.
I don't know if it's happened to any of you guys, but I'll be having a conversation with someone saying, oh yeah, we should go to this place or go to that show, and then look at my phone and it's like the first thing that comes up. And I'm like, how's that happen?
Yeah.
And that's
It's scary, isn't it?
It's scary. So there's some weird
It's the algorithm, isn't it? It's the algorithm.
Yeah.
But then they're listening to your voice. So how they, do you know what I mean? There's something
very
that's listening
clever.
to the voice and picking it up. It's a weird.
yeah, but you got to know that it's super intelligent. Like it's super intelligent. It's going to show you what you want to see because it's picked up. They say once you've made 8 Google searches, Google knows you better than you know you because it's learned so
God,
much.
I hope not.
Yeah, exactly. But it does. So you just got to start.
They'll be like, yeah, how the fuck do you know that?
No,
Mark, they'll be like, how the fuck do you know that? So tell me something about your past. You're like, what?
All right, so from there, from the clubs, and you were DJing. What was like the next step for you before the Strongman?
So there's a little bit before the Strongman, which sort of leads me into the Strongman nicely. It's I owned a couple of clubs, a couple of bars. Sorry, I'm not going to overhype it. It was a pub, a bar. Yeah. Let me rewind slightly. Yeah. So I owned a couple of bars. I got leases on them, and I'm going to be totally honest with you. It just about bankrupted me. I was literally the worst pub or club owner you could ever imagine.
Why?
I was just terrible at it.
Don't eat. Were you eating in your own restaurant?
No, mate, I was living it. Do you know what? I was awful. You know, I'd be sitting there one night and I'd be watching the telly and I'd staff the pub and everything else. Someone's just jumped the bar and they're running down the road with a till. And you know what? By the time I wasn't surprised. You know, you're not even having a bad day when that happens. And you're like, I don't think this is a game for me. Yeah. This is like, it was terrible. It was sort of at the arse end of when it started dropping out for the pubs. Pubs went through a really hard time. Yeah. And of course, me, like the great idea comes along, like, I'm going to get into pubs because so many people were getting out of it. So I thought, it's all these pubs coming up for lease. Why? Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm going to turn them into gold mines. And
there's a crazy stat that like one pub a day closes in the UK.
Yeah.
Every single day a pub closes.
Well, now they're all
Now they're mostly closing.
Yeah. And again, I got into it at the wrong time. I was awful at it. I was a terrible operator, and I should have never got into it. But off the back of that, so I sort of moved on from that a little bit. I got into very loosely tour managing a pop group called E17.
Oh yeah,
Brian Harvey,
yeah. Brian
E17 Walthamstow.
Yeah, Walthamstow, yeah. So
yeah.
Do you know one of the heads lives near my mum in Windsor?
What's that?
Yeah, one of the main guys. Well, E17 lives in Windsor.
Yeah, well, Terry Coleman is one of my best friends.
Yeah.
I was one of the best men at his wedding.
He's in Debworth.
Yeah, he's right. Yeah.
It's right around the corner from my mum's. Yeah.
Well,
yeah. My mum told me that. I was like, how'd you know E17?
We get him on the board, man.
Yeah,
let's get him in.
Well, we'll get him in. Yeah.
Don't underestimate the size of E17.
No, they were fucking
massive. I'm going to give you a stat on E17,
mate. They were They were like Kylie Minogue. They were. Well, they a band, mate. They were
outsold. Take that.
They
in
were
the first way round.
Yeah. Yeah, go on. Sorry, you were saying.
sorry. No.
I want to hear your stories.
No, well, so anyway, me and Terry, we met, we become really good friends really quickly. And Terry, to be fair with me, was, you know, he was trying to build the band back up and everything else, you know, and oh God, there's such a story there. If you ever get to talk to Terry or any of the E17 boys, you know what I mean? It's such an amazing story.
Get Brian Harvey, man.
It's just, no.
Is he still going? Because I know he jumped out of a car, didn't he?
Brian's still about.
He did hurt
himself.
Would you up, Mark?
Of course I would, yeah, of course. But Terry Cole's a man for you, for that. He's basically, he got the name of it, built the band back up and everything else. But anyway, rewinding slightly, Terry got me into the band as if anyone asked when I was out of them, I used to tell them I was a keyboard player, but I couldn't play a keyboard in my life. But I used to sort of tour manage them, and I use it so loose. So I went out quite a few times as their tour manager. I'd drive, look after bits. We went out to Russia. I lost the passports. I got so.
What do you mean lost the passports?
I lost the passports. I'm going to be honest with you, right? I've never.
lost the passports.
You're in charge of them.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
basically their manager.
Basically,
Russia of all places.
Yeah, I'm trying to be careful how I put this, but basically, we got out of our heads, and I didn't actually know where I was, and I got the times wrong of when we were flying. So I thought we were 4 o'clock the next afternoon. So we're getting smashed on a New Year's Eve out in Russia. I think we was in St. Petersburg.
Right.
And
Same familiar, James? Or?
Yeah.
He always misses flights.
Yeah. No, we were getting smashed. And they come off stage and 2 o'clock we're getting smashed, everything else. Then someone looked at my itinerary just to double check that I was looking at, and it was 4 o'clock in the morning, our flight, that we had to be at this little airport. We were smashed. So, and I couldn't remember where I'd hidden. I always used to hide the passports because we wouldn't pay for a safe. We didn't have that sort of money for a safe.
How many passports was it?
4.
Right.
Mine and the three that were with me. Yeah. You know what I mean? And yeah, so there's Brian going, "You're a shit tour manager, Martin." I know I'm shit. I know. And then it was quite a funny thing. I wish we had a camera back then. You got Brian Harvey and Terry Caldwell and John from E17 carrying the tour manager to the fucking airport. Honestly, it was awful. It was anyway. That was me very short stint of a tour manager.
Where'd you end up finding them? Finding the passports?
They were in a suitcase. I think they were probably under my pants in the suitcase, much to their disgust. Yeah. It was terrible, you know. That was that. So
did you carry on with them? E17 much?
I'm still good friends with them. I mean, there's only one real remaining member now, which is Terry, who's got them going out. And I'll be honest with you, I'll talk to Terry. Terry will ring me probably once a week, twice a week, whatever we're doing, you know, whenever we're about, we'll keep in contact, and we're best of friends. And he's brilliant, you know what I mean?
They were massive E17.
Yeah,
they were like
so big. Like I think it's something like, and don't quote me on this, I don't want to mug myself off, but like 26.5 million singles they sold, and they outsold. Again, I'm going on fag box economics here, right? But I think they outsold Take That by 3.5 million in their first. In that first,
and they had like consecutive number one.
Most famous song?
All Right, or Stay Another Day. You know, it always comes out at Christmas.
Now.
Give me a little.
Go on, give us a blast of it. Come on, you're about to
go.
You got to go away.
Oh yeah, I know that.
Don't think I can take the pain. Won't you stay another day?
Stay now.
Stay now.
Stay now.
Stay now. Baby, you got to go away.
We could revitalise a band. Let's get them out of here.
I know the song now. I mean, now you say it. Wow. Okay. So that's that's made me chuckle.
So E17 was the postcode that they were from, which is Walthamstow.
Right.
Exactly.
And they were the most unlikely, you'd probably say, boy band-ish guys.
Right.
They weren't like Take That or NSYNC or anything. They were just like normal lads. You know, they wore these sort of funny hats. But they captured everyone. They kicked off.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They were actually, Brian and Daniela Westbrook, so Brian Harvey, Daniela Westbrook, were the first sort of celebo power couple.
They were.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? Like the Becks and Victoria, it was like,
absolutely.
Really, yeah.
I'll never forget, I went
to
school, this school, and there was a fish and chip shop on the high road, right, on Woodford Green High Road. And I'll never forget, I went in there, and we all loved Daniela Westbrook because, you know, we were young and...
We all loved Danny.
Everyone loved Daniela Westbrook. She was like the Margot Robbie of today. And I forget, I went into the fish and chip shop called Churchill's, and she was in there in this sort of like tartan skirt. I mean, I must have been, 11 or something. And I was just speechless. I just never seen anyone that looked like that in my life. Like, she was so unreal.
Yeah. Wow.
And,
she's quite tall as well, isn't she?
Huh?
She's quite tall as well.
I don't remember her being that tall. But,
I don't remember her being tall.
No?
No, she's
No, I don't think she's that tall.
But yeah, then she got with Brian Harvey. And then that was like, you're right, the Brad and Jen or the...
Yeah, the power couple. Absolute power couple.
Bring her on, James, and you can tell how much you loved her when you were younger.
I saw her the other day on her thing. She was on a podcast, and she's obviously she's been through a bit of a hard time.
Yeah, she's had a hard time, I think. I think she's well documented as well.
Yeah, she has, yeah. So, all right. So that was till then, and then that at the end of E17, was it straight from there to Strongman?
Well, it transitions very nicely, actually, right? Because a friend of mine was putting a strongman comp. So I'm still involved in the clubs to an extent, you know. I'm sort of running a bit of security, I suppose, is the best way to put it. So I run, you know, and then then I get asked, would I like to MC a strongman competition? A friend of mine was putting a strongman competition.
When you
on
say
for the
MC, you mean like presenting, or
presenting, not spitting bars.
Yeah.
So anyway, he asked me to do it, and it's a place in Gravesend down on the riverfront, with me and Terry Caldwell. So E17 Terry had the celebrity factor, me as, you know, the gob, I suppose, you know what I mean? And I was asked to sort of do that. So anyway, I went and done it, and I took to it like a duck to water. And a few of my doorman mates and everything else had done strongman before that. So I've been along to a couple of comps, and I always thought there was something from my side. I thought there could be a bit more entertainment in this.
Yeah.
You know, these geezers are lifting, you know, they're pulling 300 kilos at the time, whatever they're doing, you know, they're lifting big Atlas stones, you know, they're running with, you know, super yokes and farmers walks, you know, all these things, they're pulling trucks. No, it's really the link. I always think there's a link between a crowd. So you've got a crowd watching, you've got the person doing it, and you've got the MC or the commentator who's the link. You know, and he's saying what they're doing, he's getting excited when you should be getting it. And it was missing. And I had no experience in that, but it come very naturally, because when you see someone doing amazing things,
just to light it up and give it a bit of flavour and
you get excited.
Comedy, get excited.
You get excited. And there's a lot of comedy to it. There's a lot of banter. A hell of a lot of banter there was. I mean, I used to have, you know, I used to basically get beaten up by the strongmen weekly because I would be taking the piss, and they'd be pinning me down, throwing ice buckets on me.
What year was this, just to context?
So put in context, that was 2010.
Right.
That's what we're up to now. Yeah,
Right,
so we're up to about 2010.
Right.
Yeah. And that was my first comp. And then I got a phone call off the back of it. It went really well. I got a phone call off the back of it. Would I like to do England's Strongest Man, which is quite a step up from this, you know, Gravesend's strongest person, you know what I mean, or whatever.
More
I was doing.
international level.
Mate. Yeah, it's a big comp. So I went and done it. Yeah, I went and done that and smashed that, and then I start getting bookings in, and these other promoters start coming in for me, and the phone starts ringing, and then I'll tell you what I've done. I made a YouTube channel called The Voice of, and I thought I've got to kick the door open in this strongman. And you imagine I'm little old Martin, and I'm not even the size I was very small. And I had to make an impact in what I was doing. So
you weren't, because to me you're a big guy, right? So you weren't, and I'm not a small guy. So you weren't a big guy in 2010.
No, not at all. I was 5'7", and do you know what? Quite skinny. I'm a lot different.
This size arms?
My shoulder. Do you know what? I developed my shoulders later on in life. I don't, you know, I got a bit bigger.
You're fucking massive.
I know.
I don't see it. I don't see it.
It's you're with strongmen all day. That's why.
I know. They're all bigger than me. But anyway, right? So I basically, I sort of called myself the voice of strongman. Put a YouTube channel out and started interviewing. I thought, let's give them a platform. That no one was doing it. You know what I mean? I didn't know nothing about YouTube. I didn't know anything. So, but I thought, anyway, calling myself the voice of strongman made everyone sit up. And a lot of people, like some people, and one of my best mates, who the fuck does this geezer think he is? Like, I've never done strongman. Because to call yourself that, you should really be an ex-strongman, have some credibility. Yeah. But I just turned up and done it. That's what I've done. And I called myself it. And it's still recognised now as the voice of strongman.
Yeah,
it's like, you know, and that you've got, if you're gonna do something, kick the door open and you know, do your best and make sure everyone knows. Do you know, when you leave that room or leave that event, make sure everyone remembers your name. Yeah. You know what I mean? Just be remembered. I'm not saying overtake it all, because there's a competition going on. It's about other people. Yeah. But make sure you leave a mark doing your bit.
I think you saw a gap. I think you saw a gap in the market, and you were like, you just thought, right, there needs some entertainment there, sheer excitement. Yeah. And I kind of relate it to like, let's say if I'm in the gym and I need a spotter behind me and he's like egging me on, going, come on, you've got this, you know? And
absolutely.
I just thought, right, I'm getting those 2 more reps out. And it's like, you're doing that, but for the crowd. Yeah. You know, you're hyping up that crowd, and then it's egging on like all the competitors.
Absolutely.
And everything. It was just like that whole abundance of entertainment. You know,
it is, and it's a real... it's a fantastic feeling when you're out there and you're doing it and they're responding to it and people are doing massive feats of strength. It's rewarding. It's fantastic,
It's been quite a while, Jay, since you've been in the gym.
I know.
That must have been
Me too.
When he said in the gym, I was thinking,
Still got the guns out.
when were you in the gym?
Got the guns, yeah.
He was in the gym 2010 when you started.
I was in the gym. I was in the gym on Monday for last. Yeah, but no, and that's what I've done.
Yeah.
So I kicked that in. And funny enough, Mazda, of all things, I thought they got the wrong person again. To be honest with you, Mazda rang me up, the car company, and they said we'd like to sponsor you. Like, we would like to give you a car. And
Amazing.
fuck off.
Yeah.
I remember Mazda used to be the car.
The car.
Used to
Well,
be- used to look at Mazda and go,
MX-5, CX-5, or MX-5. Yeah. So anyway, I went down to this local garage and they treated me like royalty, and I'm still thinking, they've got the wrong fucking person, right? We're going to give you a car. We're going to give you it initially for 6 months, see how it goes. We're going to put your name on the side. And I'm thinking, whose name are they putting on the side of this car?
You actually got a car, they just put Steve or something.
Yeah.
So I still have it.
Yeah. And then,
Yeah. You still have it.
I'll take it.
Give me
But
the
they did
keys.
it, yeah. So I got sponsored by Mazda, and it lasted 3 years in the end. And I've still got a fantastic relationship with them now. But they allowed me to travel up and down and all around with these brand new cars. I'd get a brand new car every 6 months, which was, and I'd run up and down the country doing what I was doing. Interviewing different people.
All strongmen, right?
All strongmen, yeah. And it was fantastic.
What have they all got in common, the strongmen?
I think they're all quite obsessive. Yeah, I think they've all got, I wouldn't like to say a form of OCD, but that sort of, they've all got some, there's something there where they just want.
It's a different type of obsession, though, isn't it? Because it's like, when you go on stage and you're like, you're kind of training your body to be an IFBB pro, or classic physique, or the Arnold classic, whatever it may be. But these guys don't give a shit about image. It's all about being the strongest man, and it's just it's
In that moment on that day.
Yeah. And the training involved is just.
Did you ever like you don't have to name names, but did you ever just like, there must have been it's a competition, and I know how I'm an extremely competitive person, so I know how competition can fuel you and rile you in different ways. Did you ever see like any of them like break down or cry, just because that's like, you see these massive men who are look the epitome of masculinity, and backstage is a lot of like training and a lot of emotions, a lot of things go on. Did you see any of them like just break down and go, fuck, I can't do this, and just?
It's really strange you say that, Matt, because the UK's this year, we've done it up in Milton Keynes in the stadium now at MK Dons, and I had 3 strongmen break down and cry live on interview, which as an interviewer, like, you've got 5,000 people in the crowd, they're breaking down and crying. It's fucking gold dust. What I mean? But they knew it, and not because I talked to them. I know all these people. You know what I mean? I know it. One of them, we had a new scoring system put in, and it would tell us a score literally as we spoke. So it will come up on the screen. And basically the guy had won UK Strongest Man, which had been a guy called Paul Smith, who's a really good friend of mine. And he saw it come up on the screen where he placed, and he knew, and he broke down there and then, and he couldn't get his words out. And I'm trying to interview him because you've got to capture that moment, right? Yeah. And it was an amazing feeling. And then the other guy who broke down, another notable one, was Gavin Bilton, who lost the title and didn't perform that day. He was going for 3 times in a row. Wow. And he lost the title. And and you're talking, Gavin Bilton's the heaviest man to ever compete at World's Strongest Man. That's how big he is.
However is he?
God, he's 200 and something kilos. He's trying to slim down at the minute. But he's a big, heavy man.
Is he the one who was doing, it might be him, he was doing a deadlift and his nose started bleeding? Or was
Eddie Hall.
Yeah, well, Eddie's a good friend of mine.
Right.
And, you know, I don't name drop, but he is, you know, and he was one of the first
didn't know that
people
was
I ever
Eddie Hall.
interviewed.
That's when he did the half-ton deadlift.
Oh, okay, you're right. Sorry, that was insane, man.
How do you know Eddie Hall? Is that through this or?
I'll tell a real quick story about Eddie. Was Eddie come on the scene, and he come on the scene the same time as I come on the scene as the voice of Strongman. So Eddie the Beast Hall turns up, and he's done England's Strongest Man. He made a few claims like Eddie does. You know, he's another person who really believes in himself, and rightfully so. But anyway, he said, I've got the strongest shoulders in the UK, blah, blah, blah. You can imagine all these other strongmen. It's just like what I said kicking as well. These other strongmen all of a sudden went, who the fuck is this geezer? Who does he think he is? You've done nothing yet. But he was making these claims, you know, and everyone, I'd spoke to a few friends of mine and that, and they went, Eddie Hill. I went, I'm going to go and everyone's slagging him off. I'm going to go and interview him, right? And like literally, you know, so I drove up to Stoke and I met him at this Fitness First place.
How did you get
took
the
a camera there and everything?
I rang him up. I said, would you like, And he brought his trophy down, the CMP trophy from UK Strongest Man. He brought that down and we put that in this room set aside by the gym. And we had an interview, and I can honestly say, and he would tell you as well, I'm one of the first people that ever interviewed him.
Wow.
You know, it was...
And, you know, he is a beast.
He's actual beast.
He's a strong
He's a strong-minded, he's always got a plan. And if he tells you he's going to do something, he'll probably do it. Yeah. You know, there's pretty much, without much deviation,
Billy, who we know, he's just doubled him, hasn't he? Just did
Billy just doubled him, yeah. Billy Clements,
Mohican and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Martin, I want to touch upon like the evolution of the sport and how it's kind of transcending from like the likes of Magnuson to Eddie Hall and Hafthor Bjornsson. Just touching on like Eddie Hall now and the boxing fight they had recently.
Yeah, I was there.
That was amazing. Like, and I couldn't believe Hafthor actually won it because I'm a fan of Eddie Hall and I did really think he was going to win it. But how did you feel about them doing something that they were totally out of their comfort zone? They're both strong men, but they were going into a boxing match together.
It was a strange one. So some of the purists in the sport totally dismissed it, didn't want to know. But you've got to look at it that people have got to move on. You're talking about two world's strongest men.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're both very similar people.
Yeah.
And which is probably why they don't get on.
Plus
Didn't you go there as well?
I was there, I was there. Yeah, yeah.
Plus, Eddie Hall had the record for the half-ton deadlift.
And then
Hafthor beat it by 501 kg.
He done one kg more.
Yeah.
But it's a button.
It was all, I saw that. It was all off key. It was all like he was recording in his own gym and everything, wasn't it?
It was recording in his own gym. It was, you know, there's a lot of, listen, there's a lot of things there that, Eddie done it in competition, right? There's no one will ever doubt that was done the right. I was there for.
With a proper adjudicator as well, like a judge.
Yes,
like,
you know, and what did I think about boxing? I went out there. I went out to Dubai. Me and you know, one of my best mates in the world, Terry Hollins, who's also a strong man.
I think I remember texting you and you were like, "Yeah, my mate." Then you sent me a picture.
Yeah. I was out there. I loved it. I loved every minute. I stayed at the fight camp. For Hafthor, and Eddie's family were actually staying because there was a lot of needle. There was a hell of a lot going on. And I was there I was there. Alex's wife was there. His son was there. Everyone. So we're playing in the pool all day. You know, just you know, having a lovely time. You know what I mean? But there was this big thing. They really generally don't like each other.
Yeah, they didn't like each other.
know?
And that needle came from like I think. Hafthor said something to Eddie that he didn't really like, and then that he didn't really give him the respect of winning a certain strongman title. Yeah, I think that was where it came from. That kind of.
It does. It was pure and simple. It all goes back to this. There was a bit of a. I think Hafthor wasn't happy with the way things went on at a World's Strongest Man.
Yeah,
and it all built up from there.
Yeah.
And he said, you know, disrespect and everything else. You imagine how these things go on. Yeah. You've got men that are, you know, they're pumped, aren't they? These are, you know, two men you don't want to get in the middle of. And then
two of the biggest men on the planet.
Yeah, literally.
Which was funny enough when we were at the hotel, we had the press conference there. So we're sitting there with, where's this going to go?
I remember seeing that press conference. Yeah.
And listen, if I know, well, Eddie's volatile. I mean, he won't mind me saying that. He could be very volatile.
Yeah.
If you rile him, then you know what I mean.
Up the wrong way.
And I was sitting there, and the press conference was actually quite subdued. And I'm thinking, this is all right, I suppose. You know what I mean? And me and Terry are sitting there, and another Rob Frampton, and we're all sitting there. Yeah, this is all right. All of a sudden, you know, and you've got little Max, Maximus in the middle.
I remember the kid.
The kid in the middle. Well, they jumped up to start having you want to go for it? And I could see the kid in the middle, and I'm sitting on the front row, and I'm there. I'm like, I can't fucking have to. So I've leapt forward and get the kid out of there, get my little Max out there, and I look for his mum. His mum's there, Alex there. So I hooked him out with his mum, but it's quite funny because if you ever see it on camera, it looks like I've got hold of him and yanked him, but it was his mum yanking him out quick. Like, it looks like he's gone flying. All you can see is me in the camera. It's just like, I bet he never saw that. Jesus Christ. But no.
It's interesting to get your views on that, and I really wanted to get your understanding of that. But just to take you back now, what's your take on how the sport of strongman has evolved since the likes of Magnuson, Terry Holland,
Jeff Capes?
Yeah, I mean Jeff Capes. Yeah,
I've worked with Jeff Capes a few times. A lovely guy, actually.
Yeah, he seemed lovely.
But yeah, Jeff Capes was the fact of the matter was when it first come on the TV. It come on straight after the Queen's speech in the early 80s. So like it was straight after the Queen's speech, and it had a captive audience. You only had three channels back then.
Yeah.
So it was
free and IT.
It was so captivating to watch. I remember seeing it and just going, it was one of those things where you turn it on and then you're just glued to it.
Yeah.
Because you want to see who's going to win. You want to see the next person.
And you picked your heroes as well, didn't you? You picked who you wanted to win.
Yeah.
Didn't necessarily have to be from the UK or something. You might just happen to like, an Icelandic or whoever, and that's who you would like. You just like the look of him or something he said or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's where you was. And so how it's evolved? It's evolved in weight, obviously, because man's evolved and what you can lift and everything else.
Getting heavier,
it's just getting heavier and heavier.
How much heavier has it got over the last sort of 10 years?
I'll give you a good example if you want.
Yeah.
The farmer's walk, I say two iron briefcases, if you like, for the easiest way to describe it, a bit longer, obviously. But yeah. Well, that was, I think that's like, it was something stupid, like 80 kilos back then, which was a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Per
arm.
Yeah. Well, there's probably novice women that are doing that weight now.
What, 10 years later?
Yeah.
No, 25.
30 years later we are now, aren't we? 40 years later.
But how much has it gone in the last 10 years? All right, so 30 years
from
it's
the
been...
start
30 years, 80 kilograms to what it is now.
Yeah.
But the last 10 years, has it changed much?
It's changed quite a lot.
So what are the men lifting now?
What, farmers' walks?
Yeah.
Over 150.
Yeah, 160s, 170s, 180s.
It's doubled.
Yeah.
And you're saying the women
in each hand.
The women are lifting 80s.
Women are fantastic now.
First of all, you can tell that you work hard. You can see that there's a natural ooze about you that's good at what you do, but it sounds like you really enjoy it as well.
I love it. It's
really
like, for me, it's like you got these people, they're breaking down back. Do you know what, man? Just like you, everyone here, we've all got a story.
Yeah.
And everyone who steps out into that arena has got a story. And that's why I always try and do my best from my side. Because when they have their moment in the sun and when the lights go on them a minute, right? Just introduce them properly.
Yeah.
MC them properly, commentate on them, so everything they do, when they lift that, when they're watching that video back, they've got the soundtrack to go with it.
It's the biggest moment that you can be.
That's quality, mate. And you've ride that. You've got a good, very unique way of introducing people.
Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah. And it ain't much dissimilar to what it was when we done the film.
Yeah. Can I put you on the spot and give us a little shout out now? Like, what would you give us an example? Maybe look into the camera and be like, "This is what I would usually say," or just give a bit of like, I don't know, how you would start something off quite exciting. It could be random or it could be something you've done. But I want the voice and everything, like, because I know you got a fucking voice.
But the voice is actually very similar to what I'm talking to now, it's like, I don't know, you'd say what lane they was in, maybe, like in lane 1, you know what I mean? In lane 1 from England, Terry Holland!
That was Terry.
Yeah. It's, that's what you would do, you know. But it's not. To me, it's not just about announcing, because you've got that guy who will always be that strong announcer.
Yeah.
I like to talk. I like to have different levels of how when I do something. I don't want to shout at you when I'm interviewing you. I want to talk to you when I'm interviewing you, and then when I announce something and I get excited, I'm naturally getting excited.
When you're creating that engagement and you're also creating that suspense when it's needed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What do you think, sport general, including strongman, what's like the one thing that you think needs to happen to continue that support and that kind of growth for women's sport? Do you just think it needs more attention,
yes,
or more focus or funding, or what?
From my side, from Strongman, we're on telly. It's like UK Strongest Man, Ultimate Strongman that I work for. We make the shows and we make the UK Strongest Man. So that will be on Channel 5, okay? Prime time, we always get a prime time slot about 7 o'clock, somewhere around that time, normally around the end of November, and it's the start of the Strongman season. For me, I think it needs to be put out there more. It's great to watch it at Christmas time, but you know what? It's a sport all year round, and it's a strength sport, and we're promoting. We live in a world now where we're promoting these inner strength and everything else. This should be out there all the time. People are doing these massive feats of strength. It should be showcased a lot more than what it is.
And like, who doesn't? Like most men's, I think. Like if you don't ask for me, lads, but like most men want to be strong. Like I would say that is like one of the best attributes you can have as a man is to be strong. So you watch it, you're like, holy shit, they're lifting these weights. And it's not like going to the gym and just, there's
some normal weight. Like, it's incredible weight.
Yeah.
And you couldn't even lift that in the gym. Do you know what I mean? Like, these like Atlas sport, like Atlas
stones,
huge. And then like trying to get that up. And then there's a technique to it where you're almost like squatting.
Lapping it,
lapping it up. And then you've got to like, put it over on the ledge. It's just incredible.
Go on, what were you saying? What were you saying?
No, I was just saying, it's the sort of pinnacle of like an attribute, right, is strength. And like through all the stuff we've gone through the last couple of years, there's been no real like emphasis, in my opinion, on health, fitness, strength.
No,
it's all been on like, a very one-sided way to fix the problem that's happened over the last 2 or 3 years. Whereas I'm like, why are they not talking about being strong?
Absolutely.
Being fit, eating the right foods. If you need the right supplements after you've had blood work taken, eating the right stuff. There's been no emphasis. And you look at like the people who are giving this information, whether they're politicians or whatever, none of them look like the man I would want to take advice from.
Absolutely right.
If you're there,
you
with
wouldn't
like,
want to take health advice off them.
No. And if you're there with like 19-inch biceps, I'm like, I'm going to listen to this guy. Like, so why is that not being propagated more in terms of pushing it further forward?
I couldn't agree more with you, because it's a real weird one, because when all the all these problems we've had over the last couple of years, wasn't it the healthier people they survived? They were generally the ones who were touted to be more survivable, I suppose, if you like. I want for a better word, but so why aren't we promoting that? Why aren't we promoting people to take their vitamins, do this, do that? Why?
Well, and also what James is saying as well is having someone that looks and has the
that's
heart
what I'm saying.
and the health.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
If you went on and said, right, you lot need to do this and do that, I'd be like, all right, listen to this guy.
And they're being kind of repressed a little bit. It's more like if you look at the Boris Johnsons and these guys, they don't look like the picture of health.
No,
and they're the ones who are saying, like, I don't want to get into politics, right, because that's my worst subject, but they're the ones who are saying, to live a certain way. But it's like, how can you listen to them? And then you've got these guys that you're with all day, every day, who are living the healthiest life, who are as fit as the strongest men on the planet. So it's like, that definitely should be put in our purview more, I feel.
Absolutely right. And there's more to come from that as well, because you've got to look at not just the strength side of it, what they've done to get to that stage as well. And
I can't even imagine what have they gone through, like
sacrifices.
I mean, to do
that was actually my next question, just to be like,
for your nose, but to do this, right?
And your nose
and for your nose to bleed, and for both,
it's like pressure.
Not. I mean, you know more than me, right? I mean, what is breaking in their brain, in their veins, Like to put yourself through that is unreal.
It's to do something that no one else has ever done. And for them boys, ultimately, it's the strongest man or the strongest woman in the world.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what they want to be. And they want to be the top of the sport. And if you get that title, you're one of a very, small amount of people.
And you can hold on to it for a very
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah.
It's not as if someone's coming in next month to do it, to be it.
Absolutely right. But for other people, there's other levels of it. They want to be England's strongest man, Wales' strongest man, just crowned all these different people, there's different, there's all these different people, they want different titles, and that's what they want to do. And that's what they're working towards.
Do you reckon if we're doing 500 kilograms now, do you reckon there's a chance, in 20 years they'll be doing 750, or is that like impossible?
Well, they're looking at the minute to do like, I don't know, 515, 505 is the next big one at the minute. 515's been bandied around, but that's I mean, you're talking, once you start getting into that sort of weight level, we're talking deadlifting, by the way.
Yeah.
That's
we're
heavy.
also talking about a different caliber of a man or woman as well, from the way back when we were doing, the 300 kg deadlift to now 500 kg deadlift. And I think it's going to increase. I think the people have got bigger. Like, look at the size of Terry Holland. He's an absolute monster of a man.
But at what point is it too much? And at what point, like, I know Eddie Hall, he famously had to change. I don't know. You'll know more on this, but he had to lose the weight and drop the eating and all because it was just too much for his body. I
think you can only do it for a certain amount of time, and you have a plan. But I'll be honest with you. I think, and Eddie would probably admit this. He was going to get to world's strongest man or die trying, almost, and I think that was his mentality with it.
On that, and touching on what James and Jay's just said. You must have, like, you've probably got tons of stories, but I suppose give us one you remember or you can think of where you just saw someone, man, woman, just put themselves through, hell in the same way as the Eddie Hall story with the bleeding, but we've touched on that.
See, the Eddie Hall one I was there for.
Yeah.
So that always sticks in my mind.
Yeah. Is there another one though where you just go flipping out? I've seen all the build up and I've seen what this guy or this girl's gone through. And now they've just won it, or that's something that they've gone through to get to that point, and it's resulted in whether it's a bleeding nose or whatever.
No, I think one of the biggest ones for me was Lawrence Charlet. He was a fantastic strongman, a great guy.
When?
20. I'm going to say 2016, but I might get my dates muddled up. It could be 27. I can't remember. It was Europe's strongest man, and he come into it totally injured. He was totally written off. And I just watched him before. I love watching strongmen's build-ups or the way they warm up for something. So I could give you a quick example. You meet them in the morning, we're all sitting around the hotel table.
And it's just, is that televised or is it because
televised?
Is it because you're involved, early on?
Europe's in particular, I wasn't involved in actually. Okay. I was watching. I was just there as a guest, but you'd sit around the table. This is how they warm up, and they'd be eating their breakfast in the morning. You'd be having a nice chat with them. They're fine. But as the day goes further and further on, they will switch off.
Hyper-focus.
Mate, it's really weird watching someone build up for a comp.
What do you
Their
mean
headphones will go on.
Oh, right.
So the laugh and the joking, that'll all stop. Then they'll get serious. Then the game face will go on. And it's like you flick a switch on some of them. And normally, it's actually probably about an hour or so before. They don't want to switch on too early. Yeah. Right? And then all of a sudden, it get like... Lawrence Charlet is a real great example because he'll hit himself with a stick, like where you the roller, foam roller, but it's not small. So he can whack himself with it, and then all of a sudden, he looked like a man from the nicest man in the world. He would look like a man that you would absolutely run a mile from if he asked you for the time. It's like unbelievable. But anyway, so he started. And he had this amazing ability to be able to switch on. Anyway, so this Europe's, he was totally written off, full of injury, and all of a sudden, he turned it on and won Europe's strongest man, in front of this crowd. And I just thought that was one in my career that really stuck out for me. That was just fantastic,
Do you think that was just mental?
I just think he just wanted it more than anyone else. I'm not even sure. I don't mean no disrespect to him. He just pulled it out of the bag. He just had this ability to switch on to something, you know?
And what percentage of that is genetics and what percentage is the training?
Yeah, it's a great question. Do you know what? There's genetic monsters. Haftor, Terry Hollands. So Eddie don't fall in that category for me as a genetic monster. He's not that big genetic, like naturally. So you go, you know, it's whether they can unlock it. It's not a matter of whether that, you know, you could be the strongest man. I've got a mate, Paul Carter, who's a massive geezer, right? And he done strongman, and I think he got third at UK strongest man once. But if you looked at him, he should have been the strongest man in the world. And he could have gone a lot further in his career. And he won't mind me saying that, you know, but
so do you think it's there, but you just got to unlock it? Or
you've got to unlock it.
And for some people, it's there and it's easier to unlock.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is.
I actually agree with that because loads of people throw genetics all around.
Genetics are massive.
Yeah.
But you've got to use it.
Yeah. Did you see the twin study they did in the UK? They got every single twin that had been born over 30 years. I think there was, I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but there was like 15,000 twins that had been born in the UK. And they got all of the ones that had been split at birth and that had been fostered at birth, because the foster parents only wanted to take one twin. And literally they went back to the twins when they were 30 years old-ish, and they all had the same traits. Like 50.
Really?
Yeah. So they would walk the same.
Yeah, but then to flip that over, that documentary, Two Identical Strangers, they both separated and they were both completely different.
Really?
Yeah. It won, I think it won Oscar for Best Documentary because Paul Saunderson did the music on it. Who did music on
my understanding is that
I think so anyway. Yeah,
genetics is a lot of it.
Yeah, I suppose genetics, lifestyle, you know, those certain things can change, but it's a
great question. It's good.
I like what you said about it's there. You just got to know how. First of all, you got to push yourself to the limit to unlock it, and then you've got to sing with it.
Yeah. You have, and it's crazy to watch. As I say, some people can unlock it, others can't.
Yeah,
there's probably I'm not saying the strongest man in the world ain't the strongest man in the world, but there are strong people out there that just could never unlock it, could never flick that switch.
Right.
Which is crazy. It's
crazy. Yeah. And what, like, you know, obviously we've done a film together. What's next for you? Because are you interested in the acting?
Love it.
Are you still like? Because you know, one of the people on this film that I remember watching and seeing, and I to be honest, I was impressed with the energy that you gave all the time in the voice and the way you were moving. I just thought, God, he looks like he's enjoying himself. He just looks like he's enjoying himself.
Do you know the story of that? Do you want to know the story?
No, yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Well, it's a real weird one, Matt. I'm not going to bore you all with this, but
mate, it's about prize fight, the most exciting film at the moment.
Absolutely.
Don't be silly.
Listen,
Amazon Prime.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, out now. It was a real strange one. I'd had a really shit time. Right, I'd had a really shit time. I'd had nothing going on. MC work, DJ work, anything had fallen apart for me because it just wasn't happening because of the COVID, and we couldn't do anything. So all of a sudden, Billy Clements rings me up and he says,
Billy, shout out Billy.
Big shout out Billy, the loveliest man in the world. You've got to get him on, brilliant.
He is the loveliest guy in the world, but you just know if you need him to be scary or help you.
Yeah.
He's like, I've just the nicest guy, and he's like, hey Matt, you need anything? You want anything? Let me if you need anything. And then all of a sudden he's just like, you just know he can go and kill people.
Yeah.
You just know he's like, he's just insane. Lovely guy.
Lovely guy. Yeah. But and to do stunts and everything else he does. And he's a fantastic actor as well. And, I would love it, but be more showcased on that sometimes. He's just fantastic. But anyway, Bill shouts me out. He goes, Martin, got this film coming up and they need some big lumps. That's pretty much how he said it. So I'm the man for big lumps, right? So I went, I went, okay. And I'd forgotten about it. And oddly, I was driving down to do Wales Strongest Man at the time, I think. It was one we could actually do. And he said, look, if I don't get them tonight, I don't get these headshots of these people tonight, I can't do it. I'd left it. So I nearly missed out. Anyway, so I sent him Terry Hollands, one of my best mates in the world. He's finished, he's been twice on the podium at World's Strongest Man, finished third. He's been fantastic. Rob Frampton, who's competed at World's Strongest Man, another great friend of mine, you know what I mean? And there was a picture of me on my phone with my top off, right? Now, I don't match up with these geezers at all. But, so I sent a picture of me.
Was it like a sexy picture?
No, sexy picture. Yeah.
Did you slide it into like some DMs? Wife sent it back. Yeah. You can say you were sending it to your wife.
I sent it to the wife. Cool. Yeah.
What do you think about this?
And anyway, so that's what I sent. Right? Why not? It's on my phone. He's asked me to send it. I sent it. He comes back. He said, they didn't want, Terry's too big. Rob's too big and he's got too many tattoos. Okay, yeah, okay, no problem, mate. And he went, but they fancy you as Tom Cribb, it was at the time. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, okay. Well, I went, I went, what have I got to do? He went, you got a box. I went, well, Bill, I can't fucking box. There's one small problem here. I can't box. Well, this was the initial casting, wasn't it? This was like in its infancy, those were, early days. So I went there and it was straight out of COVID. And I was so unfit. We hadn't been in the gym. We hadn't done nothing. And we went to Steve Dent's place. Shout out to Steve Dent, who's absolutely brilliant. All the family, Dent, we love them to pieces. And we'd gone there and I'm blowing out my arse doing these moves with Chev. Chev was there at the time. And I know Chev really well. Chev's brilliant. I slip left, slip right, and then the rights and lefts are getting mixed up and I'm meant to slip left and I slip right and he punches me straight in the head and it was a shit show.
It was almost like choreography. It's just like a fucking dance choreography, but you're like not learning the steps. Like
it was. Then they're teaching me how to throw. I mean, I'm literally going back to basics here, right? Because Bill's told everyone I can box, right? He'd give me a lesson in his front room. Like there's the kids watching the TV and the wife there, and me and Bill are basically bashing shit out of each other. You know what I mean? Like, badly. This was how it all built up. So I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? I can't box. I'm out of shape. I'm blowing out my arse. Anyway, it gets put forward, and I think Bill was being polite when he said it, but he said, "I know they don't want you for that, Mark. Blah blah blah. You're too small." Right? I wasn't. I was too shit. But I know that. He knows that. But it doesn't matter, right? He was being nice. And that's Bill won't hurt my feelings. I love that in him, right? But what I did do in between the scene, they wanted to create the scene. When you've got all the actors there and they've all got to do their bits and their fight scenes and they want an introduction. They want a bit of a cue and everything else. We're getting the feel. We've got the script there, Matt, that you fucking expertly wrote, you know what I mean? And everything else. So, right, okay. So I picked the script up and Bill goes to me, Martin, you're an MC, you read it out. So of course I blast it out. And I don't know any other way to MC something other than it being exciting.
Yeah.
And that's how it was. I wasn't trying to, and I didn't think for 1 minute. I didn't even know there was a part for this, really. Yeah. Like it was, I thought it was done. So I'm like, bang, 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 blasting it out. And now the challenger, I've come out with it all, And I remember Steve Dent. He said, I think we've got a part for you. He went, but I'll tell you, I think we'd be all right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's how it come about.
I remember seeing it. I remember saying this, and Steve was like, look at this guy with the talking. It's like, fucking hell, he's good. And he was giving it all, and his arms are wide. And now the challenger from the West Country. And we just, it just sang. Like I said, it just looked like you had so much fun. Is that something you want to keep doing then or exploring? Or do you think?
Yeah, I do.
Because it's so weird hearing that side of the story because obviously, I've got a million things going on in my head during the film. And, it's almost linked back to the pirate days of the radio, MC and all this kind of stuff.
How it got me to there.
Yeah. And it's so weird. Like it's so interesting. But I think you should, definitely explore it moving forward because you've got a great look and, you got the voice for it as well, which is quite interesting. But, you just seem to have so much fun on the day. And it was...
mate.
Sorry.
No, I just wanted to say, like, on the day, it's a real weird one because people were asking me, we had 3 days of filming. I was up there for 5, weren't we, up there for that particular part. But on that day, it was really weird because I never really get nervous doing anything. And it was so funny when I turned up because I turned up and the trailers were all there and everything else. And I've turned up and I look in there and they went, this is your trailer, right? I got someone, they come up to me, they said my name and you got a trailer.
Surprised you had a trailer.
And I'm like,
I didn't have a trailer.
they've got the wrong fucking person again. It's at the moment. Who do they think I fucking am? Like, what? Like, anyway, so I did have my own trailer, thank you. I did have my own trailer, which blew my mind a little bit. You're talking to the kid who ain't earned a penny in a year and a half out of COVID, I'm sitting there, I'm in a trailer, I've got my own seamstress who will come and if a button falls off, she'll be the one, for the, all these different...
Ray Winston one side.
Matt
Hookins the other side.
Matt Hookins the other. But this was the thing, Matt. This was a crazy thing with it. It was
it's a weird feeling, isn't it?
Oh, mate, it was just the most... I'll tell you where I drew the line at, though.
It's the greatest feeling.
It was the greatest feeling. But this was how things all fit into place. My mate worked for the trailer company who I grew up with.
Wow.
So he turned up, like, he's like, Martin, what are you doing here? And he's like, he's supplying I'm like, what's everyone doing here? You know, this is like, it's a bit weird. It was just the way it all fell into place. And it was brilliant, Matt, you know, and I got treated. I mean, Ray was just brilliant in the mornings. We'd be eating our bacon sarnies. Like, morning, Martin, boy. And we'd have a chat. And then we'd be having our haircuts the same time and talking away like we'd known each other for, 1,000 years.
Yeah,
literally.
It's a rare experience. And you kind of, you know, it's such a good experience filming. But, you really, I learned to take it in more and more every time because it's rare, man. Like, you know, you do, even if you're lucky to do 30 days on a film, every couple of years, when you think of it like that, it's like, crap, it's a rare experience. You got to just take it all in and keep the memories and take it. And
that's what you got to do. And you're exactly right. You know, take your photos. I took photos when I was there. I got a few videos. I got this, and I had to have it.
That's true. You got to enjoy it, haven't you? And think back and enjoy those times. Yeah,
because they don't last forever.
No, they don't.
No.
These times here where we're sitting in now, these won't last forever.
No, they won't. That's the thing. It's so hard to be present. Like it's getting harder and harder with everything around. It's like our last guest, Lucy. She was saying, her best moments on TV and film, and it's like you've got to like somehow put your head back there, sit with no distractions and think back to that time you were doing that film or you were doing that film and enjoy it because it's over so quick, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if
it's like the people you meet as well, like you just so many people, like, even just, the way we've stayed in contact, Mark, can you do this? Or Matt, can you, like, it's just, you meet some really nice people as well, which, just full of really nice people.
So Martin, we ask all our guests a few questions. I hope it's all right if I ask you a few questions.
Ask away.
Lovely, thanks, mate. You seem like
what
lovely
colour underpants do you wear?
Always black.
Shows the least, right?
Yeah. Can you take them off for us?
What the fuck are you doing? Listen, it's a great question.
Highest and lowest moment on the Strongman is the first question.
Highest and lowest. That's lowest is a sad one, but it had an happy ending.
Is it all right to say it or not?
Yeah, no, I was emceeing. It was my first ever. I worked for the other side actually. I don't work at the Giants Live. I was doing Britain's Strongest Man 2012, I believe it was, and I was emceeing a guy coming up, and it was the juniors, and then you had the big, you had the main show, right. You know what I mean? So, and one of the juniors, he had a heart attack. I didn't know as he was coming. Yeah, I emceed him. I mean, you're pushing him. He's coming up. He had a sandbag, and he lifted it up and dropped it on the thing, and he turned round, and I'm like, my first time emceeing. I was literally, I think I was a couple of events in, and I'm like, blah blah. I said his name, and he went over like skittle, and I'll never forget. And he was purple as he was running up. A lot of people do change colour, but he went over, and they worked on him for 22 minutes, I think it was, or something, and it was all helping out. But what I'd done is, and I thought I'd fucked up, to be honest, because he went over, and a lot of strongmen do pass out, especially when it's like they're loading heavy on the chest and everything else. It's restricting their breathing.
Everything.
And as soon as he went over, as soon as he went over, I went, medic to the arena. And as I said it, I think I've mugged myself off because I've called the medic too quick. Right. I'm over doing it, and they're trying to get his belt off. Then I called it again, and then I realised I'd done the right thing.
Yeah, 100%.
And it was real, and that's a real low point for me. That was like,
was he okay though?
Yeah, he's fine. Yeah, he's fine now. Yeah, I was still seeing him.
But amazing for you to call that at that early stage when you didn't really know if it was, too premature, but you did the right thing.
I'd done the right thing, and thankfully they had a defib on site as well, and there was other things. It was horrific. But from me, it does scar me because if when an athlete goes over in front of me, I can never ever get that out of my head. What I saw and what we done, and we nearly lost. So that was a low point. Yeah, and that's when sport to. High point. High point for me. Oh dear, I got quite a few. I got so many real good stories.
If you had to put one as the.
Do you know what? I got my mate Terry Hollands. Whenever he's done well in a competition, and like that, I get off on my mates doing well.
Right.
So if any of them win anything, I sort of get off on that. Okay. I get off on their success.
Okay.
And I'm so proud of them, you know what I mean? Yeah. So like, and like Tom Stoltman, he's world's strongest man now, like Tom back in the day, he'd come to my first, like a junior comp. Like he travelled down to Kent from Invergordon, wherever it is, in the top of Scotland, you know, and he come down, he turns up. Now he's the world's strongest man.
Right.
You know, and I'm so proud
You've seen him go through the levels.
I'm proud of my mate. My mate Terry, he's overcome a million things. I'm proud of him. And another mate of mine, Sean Kennedy, won the under 105s. I was more proud of him. He won UK Strongest Man under 105 3 times. I was proud of him because he's my friend and he worked so hard at it, you know?
And on that, if there's sort of any young lads or women that are looking to get into strongman, what would you, have you got any advice for them? Is there anything specific you'd say for them?
Yeah, I would say get yourself into a gym with a good set of people around you.
What would you say is the youngest age? Because I remember I really wanted to do weights when I was a kid. And my mum was like, look, you can't, you're too young. And then I worked at the Ford Motor Company and I was with a load of big old lads and they got me into it at 16.
Wow.
But I wanted to do it from 13. And she was like, no, it would stunt your growth. So what would you say sort of the youngest you could?
Well, there's a lot, listen, I think it's up to the person and the person's parents to what's right and what's wrong in that, you know what I mean?
Right.
I think get into sport very early, get strong very early. When you look at look at Eddie, for example, yeah? He was a swimmer, so that made him very strong. So, like, you know, I think get the basis when you're very young.
Yeah.
You're like, you know,
that muscle
all
memory.
these different...
The
like,
foundations.
Yeah, Terry Hollands at judo, and then into rugby, and then into this, you know what I mean? You know, he always done a sort of strength sport, you know?
Yeah.
And that give him the good foundation.
All right.
So, but yeah, I'd say sort of 15, 16,
Okay.
and then get yourself around a good load of people.
Yeah.
Look at a comp, you know, find a comp, a competition.
Is there a main website you've got that they can?
There's lots of different websites you can go to.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You know, there's all these different places. I mean, you know, I know my friend's got Rebel Strength, and I know he's got a strength hub on there. You've got an event hub on there that will tell you different events that are going on.
Okay, so I've got these questions. I hope it's all right. Ask these.
Ask away.
What do you press?
Bench press?
Yeah.
155.
Yeah,
that's
good.
better. That's really good. Okay.
It's all right. I've got it on video. You know.
Nice.
They
That's
weren't
good.
fake weights.
I do 160. It's all right. It's okay.
A last serious one. What do you think the meaning of life is, Martin?
The meaning of life is, the meaning of life is to live every day like you've never worked, right? Enjoy yourself every day. Do something you love, because we're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time. And it is, have a smile on your face.
Yeah.
Try to anyway. You know, roll with the punches, because they will come, and you will have them dark days. But I promise you that them days get better, and just live your life your way. Don't let anyone tell you any other way.
That's fucking...
That's such a positive...
That's proper.
Such a positive message.
And I believe that. And that's honestly what I believe, you know.
So good.
And take your chances, like prize fighter. Like you know, that day for me when I walked into there, I'm not an actor, I'm not nothing, but you lot have all said such nice things. I've had some lovely comments on it.
You know?
And it was natural for me.
Just your energy and the type of person you are. You know, you just, like I said, there was a few people on the film. And
do you know what it was, Matt? I'm going to tell you something really quickly, right? I IMC athletes, and I'm always talking about different people all the time. For that one moment on Prize Fighter, when it was and Action Martin, and it was on me.
All you.
The spotlight was on me for that one moment. I had my moment, right? And I wanted to make an impression, right? And that was it. And I knew what it meant. That was it. And I mean that. You know what I mean?
I love what you said as well. It was like, watch your rabbit punches. I don't want another dog fight. I was like, fucking hell, I'm about to watch an epic fight. It was fucking
He was
wicked,
pushing
mate,
us
honestly.
out. We were more scared of you than being the fire.
Yeah.
But you know
great.
what? That just really is a lovely ending, because it summarizes to everything you were doing when you were younger, and you know everything we've talked about, and just getting to that thing, and you just going right and action, and it's my moment.
Yeah, it was my moment, my time to shine.
Yeah.
Boom.
In front of all these people.
Yeah.
Mine. It's been incredible. Thank you so much.
Thank you
man.
so much for
Cheers,
having me.
Martin. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, gents. Thank
Ryan,
you.
what a fucking lovely guy you are. Like, seriously, man, that's brilliant. Lovely.
Do you want a kiss? Or you?
Is there anything, Matt, I know Mike's you've got an app. Is there anything where you want, like, where people can find you online or all that?
So TerryHollandsCoaching.com.
TerryHollandsCoaching.com.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'm the business manager for that. Me and Terry have got the app. Terry does all the coaching, obviously. But yeah, TerryHollandsCoaching.com. We've got an app that that's what we run as a day-to-day business.
Yeah.
You know, which is fantastic.
Okay, so that's where they can find you, yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
And if you want to watch good strongman, ultimatestrongman.tv, come and watch a show.
Amazing. Amazing.
Is there another one soon that physically people can go to?
I'm actually out on Saturday to Ireland's Strongest Man.
Right. Okay. Is any in the UK soon?
Any in the UK? We've had our main one in the UK, which was UK Strongest Man.
Okay.
But tickets are going sale in November for that. Again, ultimatestrongman.tv.
Yeah, great stuff. Well, we thank you again, Martin, for coming on, and like and subscribe, and tune into all the social media channels as well. So,
thank you, everyone.
Cheers, Dave.
Cheers.
Thank you.